Let's go to the other one. Who do we think they will be playing in the college football national title? This is the Sugar Bowl this year. Down in Louisiana, we have Texas and Washington. Texas, a team that beat Alabama earlier this year, and Washington, who feels like they probably should have gotten beat 2 or 3 times and just cannot seem to find a way to lose. So who do you got in this one? Let's lead it off with Jake this time.
Yeah, I think that this is a really interesting matchup as well because, I mean, how many times have we counted out Washington this year?
It's really some more than others. I'm not going to say I am part of that group, but you guys were.
JP's been lucky enough to hold on to that for all season long. But a strength versus weakness type of matchup here, as I see, like Texas's run defense versus Washington's run game. Washington's run game isn't very good. I don't think they're even going to attempt to try to keep them honest in this one, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Texas is really good defense. If you had to take one spot away from them, it would be their secondary. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at Michael Penix, and we're looking at this really good receiving core of Odunze, McMillan, you name it. How can they get atop of this Texas defense, and can they take advantage of it? Can they hold off T'Vondre Sweat and the pressure of that defensive line for Texas? And can Michael Penix play a really sound football game? I think if you picked one college football quarterback right now to ask him to play an almost perfect game, yeah, it's probably Michael Penix. I think you give him a month's work of scouting and film. I think he can go out there and find holes in this Texas defense. I think that's something we really underestimate. You look at last year, like TCU playing Michigan. These teams have gotten a month to prepare and to get healthy. So rather than saying Texas is just more physically going to match up better and dominate them, I just don't think that's the case because they've had this month to prepare. This is going to have to be their best defensive game plan too in Washington. Mm-hmm. They were good enough against Oregon twice, and I think they can do it. They're going to have a tall task ahead of them because I think Texas has got some of the best weapons in all of college football. But it's just the best coaches in America don't just go an entire month and not be ready for this football game. Now next week when they got to turn around and play the national championship game that you see last year with Georgia and TCU, a week is a lot harder to prepare after a tough physical semifinal game than it was 3 weeks ago when you played your last conference title game. So it's leaning Texas, but I'm not counting out Washington for the 100th time this year.
I don't see how you can. Speaking of a guy who probably will not count out Washington, JP, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I think you brought up some interesting points, and then I had some gripes. I'd say you look at Dillon Johnson, though, what he's done against Oregon in that second game. He had over 100 against Utah. He had over 150 on Oregon. What if Texas comes out so worried about that pass game, right, that Dillon Johnson becomes the answer? Like, what if it's not? We are throwing the football to run in this situation. We are doing that. This is not run to set up the pass, the deep threat. That's there. The deep threat will not go anywhere. Again, you outlined one of the best receiving cores, if not the best in the country, with Odunze and all these guys at Washington. But what if it's pass to run and Johnson can have some success and grab 80-90? What if he's 80-90 right now? I think this Washington team looks good. On the flip side of that, where does Texas not been as great? It's in the secondary. Like, we need to find ways to slow that down. You made really good points talking about the ability of Penix to pick apart defenses without making mistakes and forcing a lot of things. That is key number one when you're playing this Texas team, because I think as soon as you start to turn it over, they get very, very good and they can score quick. They have one of my favorite receiving cores in the country, Texas, that being, and the defense is solid and they can get to the quarterback. You look at the Burt kid on the edge, you look at Sweat in the middle. I think both of them have over 5 sacks on the year. Texas wise, I look at Ewers in this situation, and I don't want him to feel like he needs to carry the whole weight of the state of Texas, because I kind of think he inadvertently is feeling that. Because could you imagine having the pressure of this kid from, I think he's from South Lake Carroll, in the middle of Texas, and you go to the University of Texas and you bring him to the first college football playoff. Now you are sitting in a spot where you are favored. You're not the higher seed, but you're favored in this game. You already beat one of the teams on the other end of the semifinals.
They might as well.
I think that's a large burden.
Everybody treats them like they are the
but
higher seed.
But they aren't. This is not a gimme for them. This is
I know.
not. There's no way in hell that Texas walks into this one thinking they're going to win. If they walk in a little too cocky, a little too high, I think they get beat by double digits, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Like you'll have 2 guys for Washington over 100 receiving yards if they walk into this the wrong way. Texas wise, man, hey, let's go to work on the ground. Let's live there, and then let's open up on the backside of it, because when you have Worthy, Mitchell, Sanders, Whittington, and this whole crew, we don't have to pass the run. We can run the football and play a little smash mouth. We've done it well all year. We can do it with multiple weapons, and then we'll have the speed guy. We got the big threat, and when you have your check down guy and Whittington, who's been good, I think this is going to be a high flying. I don't see Washington getting slowed down, but I see Texas finding the right spots to hit on this Washington team, right? Whoever turns the ball over more, whatever quarterback throws 1 or 2 picks loses this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Texas wins, but I'm taking Washington plus the points. This is a 1, 2, 3-point game at most.
I love it. Here's why. I think you got to look at, I feel like, and maybe this is just a feeling, but in my head, all the cards are on Washington's table. Like, they need to find a ground game. They need to, this is where they've struggled this year, and we can be flat out point blank period with this. They need to get stops. They failed to get stops in these big games. I mean, outside of terrible offenses that they face, they give up points. And JP, you made a great point going against Jake and saying that they've found the ground game when they needed to against a good Oregon run defense. Both times they've played, they found a ground game somehow. Found success early in the game, throughout the game, at the end of the game, on the ground. So I think that they're going to lean heavily on that, knowing that Texas is prepping for the pass. But then Texas on the other side, they do have the weapons. We said it in the preseason. They have the talent this year to do it. They're here. They finally made it. They're my surprise team for a reason, that the fact that they actually finished the season and made it to where we thought they could be. But if you're going to find me laying in my bed at night, going against the AP Coach of the Year and the team that I have personally picked to go 8-4, constantly doubted, and they just keep winning football games, then you are so fucking wrong. You don't even know it. I am done picking against Washington. Give me them plus the 4.5. I think they win the game outright, and we have our chalk 1-2 matchup in the college football national title. I think they answer the bell. I think they hold all the cards and they're going to deal them. I really like him in this game, and I don't know if Texas is going to make me eat my words for the 900th time as a Nebraska fan, but I just don't feel this is the year. Closing thoughts from the boys.
I'd have to look through all the games in the last 10 years, but this is easily top 2 or 3 college football playoff games that I am most excited for. Like this one right here. I mean, I have had circled since the moment it was announced. This one is top 3 for me. It hasn't even snapped yet, but this is up there.
I was going to say that the matchup you get from the physicality of it'll be a low scoring game between Alabama and Michigan versus what we could really see on the offensive side of the ball in this Texas Washington game is going to be 2 contrasts of styles. But both are going to be really awesome in their own way. And I think, JP, you're right. This could be an all-time semifinal game. I didn't give my pick out. I don't love it. I think that there's a lot of pressure on Texas. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to find a way to get it done just because I think they are bigger. They're faster. I think this is the team that can get it done to win a national championship if there were one right now. I think this team matches up really well with Michigan or Alabama, whoever they would see next week.
I agree.
I think if Washington wins,
you want to see Michigan bad.
Yeah. Well, I think
so.
In that, yes. And I was going to say, I think Washington can turn into a TCU situation. I think that I think they can put all of their chips in and win this game, but I think it would be a tough turnaround to ask them to play another physical team a week later, no matter who they get. I think Michigan would be a better matchup, but no matter who they get. So
That's the first time I've heard the comparison between this Washington team and TCU. But if you look back on their schedule, it is eerily similar how they ended up winning those games by 1 score. They didn't have the trailing part that TCU did, but across the schedule, they did just edge those ones out that you didn't kind of expect them to. You expect them to slip up. So that's scary to think, because that will get the 12-team playoff crowd rolling again.
Oh, man.
So that would spark it up if that happened again.
Stephen A. Smith will be like, this is all college football's fault. Why would you let an undefeated Washington in? This is ridiculous. The Big Ten is terrible. What are we doing?
That's exactly what he would
Keep
do.
him out of my college football.
But all right, there it is. There's a college football playoff. So I have the chalk Michigan Washington matchup in the national title. JP, you have Alabama Texas. Schaefer has Alabama, Texas. We'll see who Reese is on. I believe he'll have something different. Maybe he'll have Bama, Texas as well, and I'll be on my lonely island.